Welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove, and I'm joined by a man who's all-American. He's star-spangled, so much so he scouted every hotel in Richmond, even though he lives here. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello, and you really didn't like it when I went to your apartment and checked it out while you were there. You seemed very upset by that.
So this is not a hotel.
Well, we'll see what happens.
It's just not etiquette, is it?
We'll see who wins. It's just not etiquette.
So this is our USA versus England World Cup semi-final preview.
Yes.
Honestly, words I never thought I would say in my entire life. The game is Wednesday, July 2nd.
You got it. No, you didn't get it. Tuesday, July 2nd.
The game is Tuesday, July 2nd. We're not going to do that out, are we? Kickoff is 3 p.m. Eastern over here.
Such is your level of enthusiasm?
Such is my level of enthusiasm. I pushed it back a whole day.
All right.
So we are going to get into the tactics and the matchups and the various one-on-one things that will be happening. We've got listener questions that you took from Twitter. I guess Twitter are questions.
Yeah.
But first, let's start with the hotel nonsense.
All right.
Because it is nonsense.
Is it though, Daryl? Or is it a trebuchet mockery that's an affront to God and the Queen?
It's nonsense, right?
Yes.
It's a thing Phil Neville said that he was. So here's what happened. 2 US staff members went to scout the Leon Hotel that England are staying in.
And not that it's important, but since I'm American, I have to interject to say I think it was the team administrator and the assistant administrator. The point being that they were not team officials, which is why, or they weren't a member of the coaching staff, which is the way it's been sort of reported. Yeah, no, but you can see the different bent. Sorry, I'm already going off on it, but you can see the bent of the newspapers where it was they weren't wearing their U.S. soccer training staff kits, and it's well, they weren't part of the training staff, so they wouldn't be.
So there's no subterfuge.
Yes,
right. And so Phil Neville had said that he felt weird that the US had been scouting out the hotel England are staying in. Because it's not really good etiquette to do that, essentially.
Yeah,
right?
It's ours now.
And then the Daily Mail picked it up.
Yep.
And kaboom.
Kaboom. And kaboom.
English tabloids went wild with it of England. Phil Neville criticises US for overstepping boundaries and all this sort of nonsense.
Yeah, it was one of my because I do not read English tabloids necessarily.
Me neither. Except when I go home, I yell at my parents for reading them.
That as well, you should.
It's all kinds of fun.
Because it was a good reminder of these sort of just jumps in logic and stated opinions as fact. My favorite one was that they went near sensitive English training areas. How would the Daily Mail know that there was sensitive areas?
They don't. Honestly, you can just make the leap of logic of England's sensitive training documents or whatever would be in that hotel somewhere. Therefore, they were near the sensitive training documents.
And then it goes on to but no word yet as to if that will affect Phil Neville's game plan as to how he plans to prepare, or if the so-called Spygate, as they've now moved it into that one, it's a gate now.
Watergate was a hotel-related thing.
This is true. Yeah. Yes. But it ends with him. I think.
Was it actually? Have I got that wrong?
Yeah, the Watergate Hotel.
It's a Watergate Hotel. Yeah.
All
right.
But it ends with them saying and Phil Neville, when asked about how it would impact his preparations, and then it's clear that they took a quote where he was just asked about how he was preparing for the game and made it as though he was responding to how will you prepare now that they have your sensitive materials.
We're going to change Lucy Bruns' position.
Exactly.
which we'll talk about later, but there are very different reasons for why they may do that. I want to give this is very a Total Soccer Show thing, right? We want to get away from the tabloid madness and explain why the US were doing that, right? So this semi-final is in Lyon.
Because they're spies.
The semi-final is in Lyon. The final will be in Lyon.
Right.
Right? Because England are the designated home team, in quotation marks, because one team is always listed first, you get first pick of the FIFA-approved hotels. They chose the better one, which is the one England are in right now, right? Yep. If the US progresses, they go to the final, which means they'll be the designated home team, quote unquote. So they get first pick of the Lyon hotels. Yep. So the US has a decision, assuming they go through, if they go through, they have a decision to make. Do we stay in this not quite as good, second choice hotel that we're in now because it's comfortable and we're familiar with it? Or do we move to this slightly better hotel that England have been in? Right. That's a big decision to make, right? And again, the semi-final is July 2nd.
Yeah.
The final is July 7th. So this is a fast decision you've got to make. So why not pre-plan for it and then that decision's made so as soon as you win, okay, we're going to this hotel tomorrow instead of having a scramble to make that decision. It gives comfort to the players to know where they go. I know I'm going off on a rant here.
No, it's fine because I can add some more to it if you'd like.
And if you lose, then, okay, you don't have to worry about it. But if you win, you've already got stuff in place. That's just good planning and good preparation.
Yeah. Also, speaking of good planning, the other thing that's kind of glossed over there is that they were being escorted around the hotel by hotel staff, as in being given a tour in case they did end up being able to stay there or wanting to stay there.
So it's not the North Korea tour, right?
Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
You see what they want you to
Yeah.
see.
But, like, I am now excited for when they do the, like, pre-match walkthrough and they check out every part of the field the teams do, and then that gets reported as, like, U.S. spying on England's half.
England's half.
Yes.
And then the other thing from Phil Neville's perspective is, because they're already in theoretically the best hotel because they got the first pick, if they win the semi-final, they stay for the final, obviously you just keep all the stuff in your rooms you're in.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You just stay where you are.
Except it's been compromised, and the United States now has the blueprints to the building, and Alex Morgan is swinging from the rafters and Mission Impossible style.
So have we put that to bed?
I guess so.
Can we talk about the actual soccer?
I don't know if we can. I think we need some more controversy.
We don't, do we? Well,
I suppose
actually,
not.
weirdly, if this is what you're really into, listener, we'll get back to this when we get to the Twitter questions.
Yeah, that's fair.
More Hotelgate content to come.
So should we jump to the questions, or is there anything you wanted to get to before we go to the questions?
Oh, there's all kinds I want to talk about
right.
with just me and you. I want to talk about the tactical matchups in this game. I want to talk about sort of how England are very much a front foot team. Move the ball quickly out of the back, attack. They counter press and press high.
Yeah.
They kind of play like the US plays, right? So my basic, it's more of a tactical point. It's just I think this is going to be a fireworks-filled game.
I think it will be too. Hope Solo, writing for, I believe, The Guardian, wrote that like there was a blueprint for how to beat the United States, and it was go direct, put the United States backline under pressure, and then also a key part of winning, according to Hope Solo, was not letting the United States score. So that's, England, I hope, know that part.
She has a point in about not letting them score early.
Yes.
Because that is something the US has a track record of in this tournament.
Yes,
right? Yeah.
So then they can bunker, so you don't want them to do that.
Which honestly should inform England's tactics of, like, England like to go for it, but maybe first 15 minutes would be a time to let's not go wild here. Let's not send our fullbacks too high too soon and let Megan Rapinoe score in the first 5 minutes.
Yes.
She keeps doing that.
And well, here's the thing, though. And again, this maybe is gamesmanship, who knows? But Phil Neville came out and said, no, we're not going to do that. We know we play a certain way. We're not going to change our tactics.
Yeah.
We're going to play that certain way.
But that's very big picture, right? We're going to play that certain way, but then we're also going to make tweaks within it.
Exactly.
I'd even say good evidence is we were wondering why Greenwood, the left back, didn't start against who England beat in the quarterfinals. Norway. Why didn't Greenwood start? Why was it Demi Stokes instead? And it turns out it's because Demi Stokes is not as gifted going forward, much better defensively. Right. So they still play the same style, but he made a little defensive tweak, right? So you can expect maybe the same thing from Phil Neville against the United States.
I would say on that side. On the other side, in terms of the England fullbacks, we might see a little bit of experimentation there, potentially.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that? Okay,
sure.
So England's big strength in all the games so far has been Nikita Paris at right wing. She's dangerous on her own, right? She's got moves. She can go past you. She gets good crosses in. She's even cuts in and has strikes at goal. Behind her, to begin with, is Lucy Bruns.
Yep.
I would argue the best right back in the world. Really dangerous going forward. Really, really dangerous. She has acceleration. She has this real heavy competitiveness. And she just has the smarts to know when to drift in field, when to drift outside, and to really make the most of all the opportunities that opposition might present. When she teams up with Nikita Paris, that is murder down that right side.
I agree with all of that. I'm just confused, though. Did you mean the second best right back in the world behind Kelly O'Hara, or is that not a thing that you meant to say?
I mean, based on what I've seen, honestly, I think Lucy Bruns is the best right back in the world. I think
you're probably right.
I haven't seen the entire breadth of women's soccer. There may be someone else out there that I don't know about, but even the consensus seems to be Bruns is the best right back in the world, right?
Behind Kelly O'Hara. Yes. So, no, but I think you're absolutely right. And I think Lucy Bruns has been...
Kelly O'Hara seems more fun. I'll say that. Lucy Bruns seems so intense and competitive that I'm not sure she would be a good person to hang around with.
But she'd be a good person to have on your team if you want to win.
Absolutely.
But the question is, where do you have her on your team?
Yeah, so I haven't seen this quote, but you've seen it. Neville has mentioned that I've got some decisions to make. There's a chance I move Lucy Bruns into central midfield.
Yes, basically because in the
it's a Philip Lahm type thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because, yes, if Philip Lahm had done really well against the team they were meeting in the semifinal, because that's basically the argument here, is that the United States and England drew 2-2 in the She Believes Cup this year.
March 2019?
That sounds about right. Yeah. I have it right in front of me. I could probably tell you.
I like being validated.
There we go. Yes, March 2nd. There we are, my friend. You just made it.
Could you please stamp this?
I will not stamp this. The napkin that you couldn't pull out from underneath the bottle of Pellegrino? No, I will not.
I think I made a good decision not pulling it out from under a half-full bottle of Pellegrino.
Near a bunch of electronics? Yeah,
yes.
Probably. Yes, but in that game, again, 2-2 draw, it was Rachel Daly who started as the right back, and Lucy Bruns was more of a holding midfielder, central midfielder for England.
Alongside Walsh, right? So that was essentially two not defensive midfielders, but two defensively gifted midfielders. Because the thing about Lucy Bruns, I talked a lot about her overlap. The reason I think she's the best right back in the world is she's also a fierce defender and a smart defender. She's really hard to go past. So she's genuinely good in both directions.
Yes, but I think the key thing here, though, for Phil Neville was basically that Daly did a really good job of shutting down Megan Rapinoe in that game, who did score, but it was sort of I would say a worldie. It's like off of a head and clears chest and volleys it.
Volley from distance, right?
I don't really blame Daly for that one. But I think the idea maybe for Phil Neville will be that Megan Rapinoe, at least from what we saw in the France game, was of the front three. It was like Alex Morgan, and then Megan Rapinoe was the second highest U.S. player. Yeah. So if she's going to stay further up the field, maybe that would be with an eye towards like keeping Lucy Bruns back or making her worry about Megan Rapinoe so she's not quite as involved in the attack. So if you go with Rachel Daly there instead, you put Lucy Bruns in the middle, now she can kind of control the game a bit more without having to worry specifically about Megan Rapinoe.
So it's not so much about like Lucy Bruns can't defensively handle Rapinoe, because she could, right? If she was just told stay back and defend Rapinoe, that would be honestly the best chance of neutralising Rapinoe. Yeah. But then you lose one of your best attacking weapons, which is just everything Lucy Bruns can do, including that goal from outside the area against Norway. But who loses out? Because we've been really impressed with Walsh, right? I think she's been really good defensively and like really smart on the ball and really good at holding possession. And then you've got Jill Scott is the other midfielder. And England play a 4-2-3-1, right? So there's really only two spots here up for grabs. Jill Scott, she's 5'11". She wins all those flick-ons and she scored against Norway, right? She makes all these good passing decisions going forward. Someone would have to lose out.
Yes. Yeah, and this is where I will answer that question, but I'll say this is where I think we'll see what kind of a coach Phil Neville is, because I do think if you want to kind of go with she believes, now the United States was a little bit experimental there, so grain of salt.
They were back three and wing backs, right?
Exactly. Yeah. But if you want to incorporate the she believes like success in the 2-2 draw, then I think it makes sense to go Daly and move Bruns into the midfield. But what I think some coaches do at that point is they look at their squad and they think, well, okay, but I don't really want to lose Walsh. I don't want to lose Jill Scott. So maybe Tony Duggan, who didn't start the tournament, I'll just put one of them out wide, and then I'll have all three of them in there. And like you can,
or Frank Kirby, you maybe sacrifice the attacking mids of Frank Kirby, and you have three defensive mids, but then you've changed your whole shape.
Exactly.
And Neville said he's not doing that.
And so if he does do that, I think that's a sign that the United States really has the advantage. My guess would be that if he goes Lucy Bruns, I think it is probably Kate Walsh who loses out, and Jill Scott continues to start alongside Lucy Bruns.
Not least because that height in midfield is you can't replicate it unless you have two players stand on each other's shoulders, right? You've got to have, if you want to
maybe that's how you do it, put them in a trench coat.
Because England sometimes go long from Bardsley to midfield, Jill Scott flick on, and then we're away, right? That's a thing that England do, right? Yeah. And on the flip side, I don't know how we're going to integrate these two talks. Sam Mewis is the US's tallest midfielder. I think, this is a bigger argument we're going to get into at some point, right? A bigger discussion, let's say that. I think you have to start Sam Mewis because she's 5'10", 5'11". She is the only US player who can compete with Jill Scott in the air and make her life difficult.
There we go. Yeah. So, and then if that ends up being the case, then you're making the United States maybe worry about your players in a way that maybe they wouldn't if you didn't make some of these changes. So I think that's why that makes sense to me. But obviously you have more on the line when it comes to England. I know that you're kind of splitting loyalties here, but I am curious.
I really am 50-50. I've got a team in the World Cup final. I'm just going to enjoy this one. You can hear the glee in my voice. I can't lose.
I can
stay in all the hotels.
And I know that you believe it. I don't believe you, but I appreciate that you're trying to believe that that's the case for you. But I would ask then, what would you like to see, or what do you think they'll do?
So if England are trying to win the game, I think the answer is keep the Lucy Bruns Nikita Parris combo down the right, but just tell Lucy Bruns, all right, first 15, be a bit more conservative. And then maybe as the game progresses, then start picking your spots to go forward. But just don't let the US get that early lead by overcommitting and getting too far forward and leaving Rapinoe with space in behind.
I know I'm not breaking new ground here when I say that it's really difficult to be an international manager, but it's this type of thing that
it's an impossible choice, right?
I think, and I guess I want to focus on that for a second though, because I think it's so easy to look at like a FIFA style, football manager style plug and play of like, well, put this person in and that should do it, right? Yeah. Lucy Bruns, stay home and be defensive in those first 15 minutes. But say the United States still finds a way to score. Then has Phil Neville gotten it completely wrong? Has it blown their whole game plan? Because now, well, actually, we need you to stay more defensive, even though the whole game plan was built on you coming back out in the first 15. And that's even like a tiny little nuance of a potential hypothetical. Yeah. And it speaks to...
You've got to be a good general and a lucky general at the same time. You can get the tactics right and still lose the game.
I agree.
That's a thing that can happen. The one thing I would argue for is I think Demi Stokes, if she is better defensively than Greenwood, maybe also go more conservative on that side and have Demi Stokes up against Tobin Heath. Because honestly, I don't know enough about Greenwood's defending, but if we just go with the concept that Demi Stokes is better, then you want someone who can hold Tobin Heath up, right? Can stop her in her tracks at least a little bit. You don't want someone who's going to get like a couple of step overs and they fall over, or a couple of step overs and they've gone the wrong way, like Jordan Morris did the other night, and you bite on it, and then Tobin Heath is suddenly in behind, and you're in all sorts of trouble.
Agreed.
Fair?
Yes.
Right. Also, Demi Stokes is from Dudley, which is very near where I'm from, so I'm pro Demi Stokes.
I figured
some local representation.
I figured we'd get in there at some point. We were both surprised to go back and see that She Believes game because England were in a more or less conventional 4-4-2.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a chance they do that against the United States, or would you expect someone to drop into the midfield?
I would guess, much like the United States in March, they were experimenting with various shapes and sizes to see what works. What's worked for England is the 4-2-3-1. With Frank Kirby underneath a striker instead of alongside a striker, which is what happens in the 4-4-2. So my guess is that we see England in a 4-2-3-1.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
I'd be wild surprised if they did anything different.
Wild surprised.
Yeah.
You're preparing to hang out with the Cooligans, aren't you?
I'm just inventing new phrases.
Live show July 13th.
Oh, yeah.
Not RFK. Whoops. That would have been very wrong. Don't go to RFK.
Don't go to RFK.
It's get attacked by raccoons.
There's nothing there. There's nothing there except danger.
Yeah.
And maybe Magneto. Go to Audi Field, July 13th.
Yeah.
$20 plus an inconvenience fee. Link will be in the show notes.
Right.
Tickets are selling, right? I think we're past halfway.
Oh, boy.
Once we get sold out, we're probably sold out. Like, unless they move us to an even bigger venue, I think if you've got to get your ticket if you want to be there.
All right, so get your tickets.
Yeah.
And then
Link will be in the show notes, right, editor?
Yeah, sure. And so we would assume that Steph Houghton already has her ticket booked to the starting 11 as one of your two center backs. It was McManus against the United States in the She Believes. It has obviously been Bright in this World Cup.
Yeah.
But Bright had her kind of distribution issues in moments against Norway, looked a little bit shaky at times against Norway.
Yes.
Which of those two would you rather see, or which one do you think it will be?
Honestly, I don't have enough data on either of them. I'm massively impressed with Houghton. I'd love to talk about what Houghton can do because I think that's a threat to the United States. I haven't seen enough or paid enough attention to Bright or McManus to know which one I think should start. Like, I know Bright had what we called the Brightmare, 10 minutes, where every pass was off target or she was tackled and she gave up possession. I'm not sure that's enough to say, oh, she's no good, get rid of her. You know what I mean? I think if Neville has been... I think he's mostly been selecting Houghton and Bright as the starting partnership. Didn't McManus come in when we rotated a little bit towards the end of the group stage? So my guess would be Bright, and I don't have a strong enough opinion to like argue for one or the other.
All right.
Fair enough.
Do you want to talk about Steph Houghton now, or should we do that after we talk about today's sponsor?
Let's talk about today's sponsor.
All right. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Hims.
Hello.
Forhims.com is a one-stop shop for hair loss, skincare, and sexual wellness for men. 66% of men start to lose their hair by the age of 35. That has not been a problem for Phil Neville, I don't think. That said, he does seem to face the camera a lot. I don't see the back of his head in press conferences, so I don't know what to think.
I think he keeps it hidden.
Seems very suspicious to me.
If he starts wearing a hat, then we'll
know. Yeah, if suddenly he abandons the vest, but instead has a hat on, something's up.
We've been talking about sort of, potential problems that the US or England could have, and we've talked about how it's really hard to find the solution, right? Does Bruns do this or does Bruns do that? We don't know what the correct solution is. With Hims, it's kind of straightforward. If your hairline is slowly starting to move backwards and you're seeing some bald spots, there is a solution, and the solution is forhims.com.
That's right. At forhims.com, you will get medical-grade solutions backed by science.
If only Phil Neville could get those for his team.
Yeah, then he would know. It's all backed by science. He knows exactly how things are going to work.
A medical-grade defender that can stop Alex Morgan.
Perfect. No snake oil pills or gas station counter supplements. I hope he's not giving his players those, because those definitely won't work and might fail the drug testing. But with Forhims, you will not fail the drug testing because, again, they have medical-grade solutions that are backed by science.
You also, unlike when you're doing the drug test at the end of a soccer game, there are no awkward in-person doctor visits or long lines. The players, I've heard players complain about, they have to wait for other players to do the drugs test first. So Forhims connects you to real doctors online, and that saves you hours and very likely saves you a lot of money.
There we are. So our listeners can get started with the Hims Complete Hair Kit for just $5 today, right now, while supplies last and subject to doctor's approval.
I like the emphasis you put on the right now.
Yeah, now.
Yeah.
Right now. This very moment. Or I guess when you're listening to this. But even so, right now. See website for full details and safety information. This could cost hundreds if you went to the doctor or a pharmacy somewhere else.
So go to forhims.com/total soccer. That's forhims.com/total soccer. Forhims.com/total soccer.
Thank you very much to Forhims for sponsoring today's episode. Thank you very much to Steph Houghton for apparently being the best indirect free kick taker in the world.
Oh, because when we watched the She Believes Cup 2-2 draw, she again scored an indirect free kick after a picked up back pass.
Is this her specialty? Does she know how to do this?
I mean, I've seen her do it against US and I've seen her do it against Cameroon in the round of 16.
I'm going to say it makes sense because we've seen her, in contrast to the Brightmare, Steph Houghton has looked very calm and composed throughout this competition. She's been the one to sort of make like strong defensive plays, occasionally going to ground if she needs to, but it seems very well timed, but also kind of makes good covering runs, makes the smart decision. There was the one against Norway, I believe, where she kind of like turns in her own box under pressure.
Really calm.
And I think then it makes sense
I think she picks out passes and breaks lines better than any other England defender. One of the best in the tournament, I think, at making those forward passes.
But if you've got a whole bunch of defenders sprinting at you at full speed after the indirect free kick is taken, but you're used to a bunch of attackers running at you at full speed, maybe you just calmly hit the ball and know exactly where to put it.
So one of the keys to the US is don't give away indirect free kicks.
Yeah, don't pass the ball back to your goalkeeper.
Yeah, listen, don't pick it up unless you're 100% sure. Because the Adriana Franch moment, it's an accidental back pass, right? It's meant to be a pass back from midfield to US
I think
defenders.
it's Alex Morgan, is the one who passes it back.
She's definitely passing it to a defender, right? Yep. But then like a defender either lets it run or misses it, so it goes through to Franch. To me, it shouldn't have been an indirect free kick at all, but don't give refs opportunities to give those free kicks because they will absolutely
it's a pass backwards that gets picked up by the goalkeeper under pressure.
But I think there's a weird like grey area where it's got to be like an intentional pass from one player to the keeper. You know what I'm saying?
Now you're just trying to cover yourself. Now you're just trying to sound like you're not a pro England person here.
I am genuinely arguing both sides of this because I'm interested in both sides.
So yes, maybe just don't give Steph Houghton the indirect free kick shooting opportunity.
But here's the thing I'd like to talk about from a US perspective.
Sure.
The big thing for England is they pass out of the back, right? They build from the back and they do it quickly. They move the ball really fast and it'll be like they zip it out to Lucy Bruns or Houghton breaks the lines through midfield and finds, say, Kirby or the striker Ellen White. But the thing we noticed is no one put England under pressure ever. In the group stage, no one pressed them. Cameroon didn't press them. Norway, who we thought would do the locust thing and go out and press them hard and make it hard, first half, they sat back and paid the price for it. Second half, when they're desperate, right? They're 2-0 down at half time. They started to press England, and that's when the Brightmare happened. So the only half of soccer we've seen a team press England as they confidently try to play out of the back, England got into some trouble. I think that's the key to the game for the United States.
I agree. I agree in terms of pressing England out of the back, but I also think making England nervous, especially with their back line, is the other thing that Norway did in moments. And that's what stands out to me, is that when Norway went direct and long balls over the top, England were happy with that. They were happy to win those in the air.
Up, right, headed it away,
or Bardsley comes out, collects, and it's no problem.
Yeah.
When Norway did get chances, even in the first half, was when they combined a few quick passes, pulled some players out of position. Houghton comes out and tries to make a play. She gets beat with just a quick cut, but I think that's because they hadn't necessarily been having to deal with that. And I think if the United States goes at them and makes that defense uncomfortable, that is a vulnerability that can easily be exploited.
And then the interesting thing on the other side is England press, right, when you have the ball.
True.
So there's a massive challenge of, can the US play through that? Because they haven't really been pressed either. Right? France didn't press them, right? They're just not a pressing team. So that's why I'm really excited for this game, because there's pressure at both ends of the field unless one team has a drastic change of approach. And it's really going to be like, can Sauerbrunn and Dahlkamper and combine with Ertz and play their way through that? Or are the US in trouble when England press them? I think that stuff's going to be fascinating.
Yeah. I think this might be really strangely like the most fascinating game of the tournament so far, and I include USA-France in that because I think with France there were so many differing strengths and vulnerabilities, and there were some questions we had about like who starts where for France. In this game, it seems like because England is really similar in a lot of what they want to do, but also has a lot of very talented players, I think it makes for a lot of really compelling matchups. I think Ellen White versus that back line.
Yeah.
Again, there's been a lot of talking points about how the back line is slow and the United States will struggle with pace. Maybe that's true, but that feels a bit increasingly like a talking point that kind of gets spouted as opposed to a thing that has been categorically proven.
And Ellen White's not that quick anyway, right? That's not what her game is based on.
But I think Ellen White, what we've seen from her is being crafty. She keeps finding space in the box. Yes, she has the bad miss in the very beginning against Norway. Jill Scott makes up for it.
Perfect dummy that she did?
Exactly. Perfect. But what I've noticed about her is
she's a lucky general in that sense.
Yeah. But she keeps popping up. At a certain point, it goes from luck to like, it's a thing that she is very skilled at, is finding little pockets of space and also being able to drift away from defenders in those moments when they should be locked in but aren't.
It's going to be Sauerbrunn and Dahlkamper like having to pass her back and forth and communicate, and she'll drift maybe to O'Hara, and then you have to communicate with O'Hara, who's possibly double teamed, and it's going to be. But I have faith, after what I saw against France from the US backline, I have a lot of faith in that backline in terms of communication and organisation.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would say then, though, that like if you have those two center backs worried about Ellen White, we then go to the like wings, where you're probably going to have Tony Duggan and Nikita Paris.
Yep.
And we saw Crystal Dunn
There's an outside chance it's Beth Mead on the left, maybe.
Yeah.
But I would guess Tony Duggan and Nikita Paris.
But with Nikita Paris especially, like we saw Crystal Dunn do well against Gianni for France.
Yep.
We saw her handle.
And Cascarino.
Yeah, we saw her handle the pace
Yep.
of those two players, and I didn't feel like Gianni and Cascarino did a good job of exploiting their technical ability and using some of the trickery. When they did, that is when I felt like Crystal Dunn did struggle a little bit.
Yeah.
That she would
get beat, but then she would get back the other
exactly,
side.
Exactly. But this is one where I feel like Nikita Paris, maybe if she uses a bit more trickery and then uses that pace, there could be vulnerabilities there as well.
Or uses like a late arriving Lucy Bruns.
Yeah.
One of the things I didn't mention about Lucy Bruns, she tends to have a sprint from distance, and she'll just appear out of nowhere, and that could take a lot of people by surprise, right?
It could, yes. Yeah. So I think there's going to be really, really compelling matchups all over the field.
Yes.
And I'm very excited to talk about them, but I'm also very excited to answer some questions. Should we do that first?
There's one more thing I want to talk about is the US starting midfield.
Okay.
Because that's always the big
Well, we do
question.
have that question in there.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
Then,
Yeah. Why don't we start with Haley Seres, who asks, how is Dunn possibly going to hold down the left with Paris there and Bruns giving her service?
So we're assuming it's Bruns and Paris.
Yeah.
I think we learned against France that Dunn really can do it, right?
Yep.
She can handle really dangerous right wingers. I think the thing we saw was when she was double teamed, when Tarrant got forward and Rapinoe didn't track back because she was told to stay high, or one of the midfielders was slow getting over there. That's when she got in trouble. I would argue Bruns is much more dangerous than Tarrant and much more likely to get into the attack.
I agree.
So I think the key to Dunn holding down the left is that she gets help. And I think it may be that Rapinoe is going to have to work back a little more, or it may be like the left sentiment is going to have to come over a little more. England need a plan for that side. The other danger is Bruns' interior runs, which is going to be like, will Rapinoe track it all the way back to like a defensive midfield spot, or does she get passed off in that way? So again, it's going to be about communication and the correct person picking up the late threat from Lucy Bruns.
I agree, and I really did, like, going into this, think that it should be Lucy Bruns starting in central midfield. Now I think if you're a fan of England, maybe you do want Lucy Bruns on the right side at right back, because I did, as we saw against France, Tobin Heath dropped way back and did a really good job of helping deal with Majri and Eugene Le Sommer. But I don't know if Megan Rapinoe has the fitness and like the legs to do that. Not questioning Megan Rapinoe's fitness; she can certainly run a lot more than I can.
Which arguably, you could argue it's a waste of her energy, right? Because you want her to focus all her energy on attacking.
Yeah, but I mean, you would argue that about Tobin Heath, and she did that. I guess my question is, does Megan Rapinoe do that as well, or to your point, do you have a midfielder slide over? But then that creates opportunities for England's midfield. So how the United States goes about dealing with that, if we do see Lucy Bruns and Nikita Paris on that right hand side, that to me is more interesting than that one, or more disconcerting if you're a U.S. fan, than that 1v1 matchup between Paris and Crystal Dunn.
And the flip side is, what if the U.S. just gets really aggressive and Crystal Dunn does her thing and she overloads with Rapinoe, overlaps and overloads that side with Rapinoe, and now it's not just is Bruns pinned back and doesn't have a chance to attack. Also, Nikita Paris is having to work back and go much farther defensively backwards than she wanted to. So the other option is like, offense is the best form of defense, kind of thing, right? That is an option for the United States. It's a risky one.
It's a very risky
one.
But
it would make the game real fun.
That is true. I suppose it is. I guess I'll ask the next one because it seems like it goes straight to you.
Oh, yeah.
Soccer Never Sleeps would like to know, is Daryl all in on Team England?
Yes.
And can England actually win?
Yes.
Or is the U.S. really in a tier of their own?
Maybe.
Yes.
Those are my short answers.
Yeah.
I am all in on England.
Yeah.
I'm also all in on the United States, right? I honestly think those two things can be true. The only thing that tips it towards the United States a little bit is, honestly, the United States going to a World Cup final is better for business for the Total Soccer Show.
Yep.
Right? More listeners in America will be into the World Cup final than if it's England versus Netherlands or Sweden.
Agreed.
So it's like half like... I've seen the US win a World Cup before, right? And it'd be a big thing to watch England try and win the World Cup. But on the flip side, I want Total Soccer Show to do well. So even that stuff kind of balances itself out.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm all in on England. I'm all in on the United States. I don't feel the need to explain that any further because at some point it doesn't make sense, right? You just keep arguing both ways. What's the second part? I'm trying to expand on each other. Can England actually win?
Oh, yes.
Yes, right? You could argue England is a better team than France based on their performances so far, and France was a serious threat to the United States.
Yep.
I don't know if this England team is eventually going to be the best in the world, but right now they seem to be literally top 4 semi-finals, right? So, yes, this is a realistic possibility that England can win, right?
Yep.
We have the technology.
They do. And then to the question, and I agree with that, which I think answers the final question, which is, like, is the United States in a tier of their own? I don't think they are, but I also think they're not until they are. If they win this World Cup, then if you win back-to-back World Cups, you're in your own elite tier.
Yeah, the way they won, the argument for it maybe is they won the World Cup in 2015, and beat Japan heavily in their first game. They're the only team that's had like a 13-0 blowout in this tournament, right? Other teams got to play Thailand and didn't do that.
Yes.
Looking at you, Sweden. And also the way they handled the host nation, strongly favoured. US won. I know France were offered some threat, but the US won that game. It may be that the US is in a tier of their own. Honestly, we'll know after the end of this World Cup if they kind of win it back to back. Yes, the US is in a tier of their own.
All right.
But not until... it's the same answer as you, right? Not until they've proven it.
Not until they've proven it. I like that one. I'm going to keep going and ask you another question, but I'm going to jump way down the list to Ryan Altenbach, who asks, is there any justification for not starting Heron again, or is Jill Ellis out of touch as Twitter makes her out to be?
The answer to the second part is no. Jill Ellis is not as out of touch as Twitter makes her out to be. Twitter is... it's a great place for emotions about national teams. It's not a great place for analysis.
What do they say about the bar on Tatooine? It's like a wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Yes.
It can be that on occasion. Twitter can be beautiful. It really can be wonderful when it helps you like stay up to date with a movement that's happening or like something that you might have otherwise missed. But if you kind of pay attention to it too much, there could be a little bit of an echo chamber thing, and it can be a little bit negative.
Do you remember when the United States men's national team won a quarterfinal 1-0, and the trending hashtag was Bearhalter out?
We're not going back to that.
We're not going back to that.
We're not going back to that.
But I'm just saying that is a corollary to what happens with the Jill Ellis thing.
Yes.
I would also say, if you go back to 2015, listen to our shows from 2015. We are early on saying, we think Jill Ellis knows what she's doing. The rest, essentially Twitter was saying, oh, what's she doing? The US looks terrible. This looks awful. They don't look like they've got anything going. We kind of... stayed faithful and we're like, I think she's got a plan. This all looks pretty solid to me. I think we could win the World Cup. And we were proved right in 2015. Yeah.
Yes.
So that part of the question is answered. I think also the game against France proves that Jill Ellis knows what she's doing.
I agree.
Questions answered.
I agree, but I take issue with one thing there though, is like in as much as you would say, like, if the United States has two bad games in one game, the one game doesn't control that. Like, they still had two good games that we talked about and thought they were good, and then they had a bad game, fine. And I would flip that around and say, like, yes, she got it right against France, I think. That still is somehow a debate, but I think she got it right. But I think the United States had major issues against Spain, and I think there were reasons to doubt some of the decisions she made there.
Yeah.
But I think if you were going to look at the France game and see the United States getting the result, and I would say... It was, in the end, a fairly comfortable result. I know that sounds nuts because of how nerve-wracking it was.
Yeah.
But like,
that's fandom, right?
And there's the Kelly O'Hara handball and everything like that factors into it, but I still think that the game plan was right. So to me...
the 5-4-1 decision, I think, was right with 30 minutes to go. See this out?
Yep. Yeah. We can disregard people...
And they looked well-drilled in the 5-4-1, despite we've never really seen it in a game. Apparently they've practiced it a lot, and there's a lot of, it's essentially to me that is evidence of there's a lot of preparation going on behind the scenes that we don't know about.
Yeah, people who write tactically oriented opinion pieces for The Guardian who might have an axe to grind against Jill Ellis and the national team might have an axe to grind against Jill Ellis and the national team. I'll leave it there. So what I say with all of that...
that was not a shot at Caitlin Murray.
No, it certainly was not.
You can deduce anything you want. You can deduce the correct answer from there.
Yes. Because Caitlin Murray is wonderful. We'll mention her again in a moment. But I say all that to say that would I like Lindsay Horan to start?
Oh, yeah, that's the actual question, right?
Yes, I would. But I am not going to be upset if she doesn't because I think at this point Jill Ellis deserves to sort of like have her decisions backed. And if it doesn't go well, then we can talk about it. I'm not going to then be like, I told you so. It should have been Lindsay Horan because if I did that, I would have been wrong in the last game because it feels like she got it more or less right. So I think the argument to be made about like not starting Lindsay Horan is simply that others maybe are ahead of her, to steal another line from a former national team manager. And that like maybe
and she can sub on later and still be really influential.
This is true. So again, I would like to see her start, but then it comes down to it's not going to be Julie Ertz who sits. We're not going to go to a back three, I don't think. So then if you have Julie Ertz...
We did do that in the She Blues Cup, but we only tied that game 2-2, and we never really like stuck with that experiment, right?
And it looked very bad.
It suggests it was an experiment. The results of the experiment were... This doesn't work, let's play 4-3-3.
But even if we did do that, then you still only have two central midfielders. So then maybe that's... So if you do, I guess if you did that, then maybe it is Lindsay Horan and Sam Ewis. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
But otherwise, you're looking at two spots for Sam Ewis, Lindsay Horan, Rose Lavelle. I think Sam Ewis has played herself into Jill Ellis because Jill Ellis has good graces.
And the really big thing we mentioned earlier is the aerial threat of Jill Scott.
Yep.
The counter to that is the aerial threat of Sam Ewis. I would bet good money that Sam Ewis starts this game. I'm happy. I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. There's a reason. There'll be a reason why it's not Sam Ewis. But it makes a lot of sense to me that she starts this game.
Yes. Yeah. And I think we keep going back to this because the other midfielder there is Rose Lavelle, who I think maybe if it's going to be Lindsay Horan, then Rose Lavelle loses out.
Yeah.
But I would rather
be upset about.
I would, because I think I love Rose Lavelle. I think she's one of my favorites. Yeah. But it's also because I think, again, going back to the Norway game, when they were able to like have a technical playmaker on the ball who combined quickly and found open spaces.
Norway versus England.
Yeah, that's when England got pulled out. That feels like Rose
Caroline
Lavelle.
Graham-Hansen was the one sort of threat to England, that semi-consistent threat to England. Yeah,
I would be more okay with it being Horan over Mewis, but I think that's where my knowledge of like the NWSL and the women's national team drops off a little bit, if I'm totally honest. Like,
you haven't seen that much of Mewis.
Exactly. I know there are people out there who swear by Sam Mewis, who love Sam Mewis, who think she should be starting every single game.
Yeah.
But the thing
is, might be one of them.
But there are also people who feel that exact same way about Rose Lavelle. There are people who feel that way about Lindsay Horan. There are people who feel that way about Jill Ellis, and they're all going to be vocal and on Twitter.
Yep. Okay, here I want to talk about some people I disagree with.
All right.
It's the people who think the solution to getting everybody in midfield is to drop Becky Sauerbrunn and get Julie Ertz in the back. I think the way Becky Sauerbrunn organised the defence against France and that offside line was perfect, right? Chef's kiss perfect, because of Becky Sauerbrunn's organisation. If you're willing to lose that just to get everybody that you like in the team, that is essentially a failure of backbone, right? And that's why I kind of respect Jill Ellis for having the backbone to be like, no, what we need to do is make a tough decision and leave out someone like Lindsay Horan if the situation calls for it. That's a big call, and she made it. I wouldn't be surprised if she makes it again.
Nor would I. But I would then like to see proactive change based on what's happening and pre-planned changes if the game is going according to plan. What I don't want to go back to, again, that's really the one that I have a hard time shaking from USA Spain, is that sort of lack of a reaction. And I know she said, we're going into it and second wins, and I kind of dismissed that. That felt a little bit like coach talk to me for like, I didn't really know, whatever. And if we find ourselves in a 0-0 1-1 game in the 65th minute and the United States hasn't started making substitutions, that's where I am going to get nervous, and that's where I do want to see some change.
I will say this. I think one of the biggest failures of Jill Ellis is her sort of PR savviness in press conferences. I don't think she gives answers that make people happy. And I think she sort of doesn't care. And maybe that's okay. But she doesn't give the answers that like put people at ease.
See, I kind of disagree with you in the sense that, like, if you don't care, you don't care. And I think of, like I asked Louis Van Gaal a question. He did not care, and it was very clear. Like, if you don't care, you say, like, I don't know, I don't want to talk about that. Move it on. Like,
but he famously prefers scuffed to the total soccer.
Well, that's totally true. And probably is true. But yeah, I mean, if you don't care, you don't answer the questions. Or you give very, like, we thought it was good. Next. Like, I think she tries to give informative answers.
Oh, you think maybe she's just not good at it?
But I think she also doesn't want to give too much away. She does it's the tightrope you have to walk of you want to try to inform so it makes it clear that you know what you're talking about and you're not just guessing, but you also don't want to give anything away because then you're giving stuff away, but you also don't want to throw your like players under the bus. And so you can't do that.
Yeah, you don't want to say, Lindsay's playing badly in training.
Yeah.
You don't say that because you damage her confidence.
I mean, because
it ruins the image of this like constant excellence of the United States.
Exactly.
Right? I'm not saying that's what's happening, but I'm saying that isn't the thing that she would say even if it was happening.
Exactly. But then, like, go back to the beginning of this show where if Jill Ellis comes out...
We have to start over?
We do. Whole thing.
But just because I got the date wrong?
If you go back to the tabloidy like aspect of things, that if somebody asks Jill Ellis in a press conference, why is Sam Mewis and Rose Lavelle, why are they starting over Lindsay Horan? And she says, well, like Lindsay kind of struggled to deal with this one part of what we were doing, and these two did it better. That headline is like Lindsay Horan falling behind or Lindsay Horan not good enough, or Jill Ellis doubts Lindsay Horan.
Her actual answer is, I don't see it as a starting 11, I see it as a starting 14, 15. And so that becomes like, she answers it, but she doesn't really answer it. Right? And that is frustrating. That's a type of answer that makes people like go, Jill.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, again, to go back to the question, is there any justification for not starting Lindsay Horan? Yes. But I think we maybe won't know it until the game happens. And then afterwards we'll find out if it was correct justification.
I think that's fair.
I know that's like a lame answer and a very wishy-washy way of not answering. But I think I honestly, for me, for my own like self-preservation, I don't want to get into it where I'm like, it has to be Lindsay Horan. Because as soon as you start like firmly saying it has to be this, it must be this 100%, when it's not, you're automatically going to be upset and you're automatically going to be looking at it with a negative lens of that's not working, that's not working, that's not working. And I would much prefer to say like, I think it should be Lindsay Horan. I'm not there coaching. I'm not there running training. Let's see if Jill Ellis has an idea about why it wasn't Lindsay Horan.
And so big picture is the United States has multiple incredible soccer players, someone's always going to miss out. So if you get too attached to one of those players, you're going to be disappointed. But the reality is that player is being replaced with someone who is an excellent soccer player.
This is very true.
Right? So this isn't like the Zardes versus Altidore or Sargent thing, right? This is very different.
Do you know how you won't be disappointed or depressed, my friend?
Let me guess. Is it going to be if you eat HelloFresh?
That is correct. Because today's episode is brought to you by...
You had that advertising look in your eye.
What? Did I change my voice to Daryl? Did you know? Yes, today's show is brought to you by HelloFresh. HelloFresh is a meal kit delivery service that shops, plans, and delivers step-by-step recipes and pre-measured ingredients so you can just cook, eat, and enjoy.
So HelloFresh does all the meal planning, shopping, and prepping for you, so you don't have tough decisions to make. You don't have 4 tasty ingredients and you can only choose 3 of them for the recipe. What happens is you get the exact ingredients that you need and you don't have to make tough choices. You just follow the step-by-step instructions and you've got a meal worthy of a magnificent starting 11.
That's right. And if you're trying to get maybe a meal done before the game starts, you can do it quickly and easily, or after the game if you want to get it done quickly as well. Yeah. You can do that too because all meals come together.
If you start when the broadcast starts, you'll definitely finish it in time.
What do you mean?
If the broadcast starts an hour before, start then.
I see.
You've got plenty of time to cook it and then eat it.
That was confusing, but yes. All meals come together in 30 minutes max, call for less than 2 pots and pans, and require minimal cleanup.
You've got to have at least 2 pots and pans, right?
I would assume so.
There you go,
yes.
yeah.
They don't send you those.
That's the only thing they assume you have, right, is 2 pots and pans. They can't send you those every time. That would be wasteful.
That is correct.
There are 3 plans to choose from. You can go classic, veggie, or family. I'm guessing you're more of a classic man. I'm more of a veggie man. None of us are family men right now, but we may be in the future.
Not so much, no. We'd rather get more meals than larger meals, yes. So we go the classic plan, but you can change it up whenever your tastes may change.
Yeah, you could try being vegetarian, decide this is not for me, and then you can go back to it if you want. You also can enjoy fun menu features with HelloFresh's dinner to lunch, 20-minute meals, gourmet, and one-pot wonders.
That's right. And to get $80 off your first month of HelloFresh, go to HelloFresh.com/TSS80 and enter the code TSS80.
So once again, that was HelloFresh.com/TSS80 and enter TSS80.
There we are. So thank you very much to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's episode. More questions, Mr. Grove?
Oh, yeah. Let's answer some more questions. Where did we get to?
We've done 1, 2, and 7. Let's go to the Baron Lord Snavington, a.k.a. Adam Snavely, a.k.a. Snaves. Has Phil Neville's righteous hotel rage infected Daryl as of yet?
So I just randomly was looking at Twitter this morning, didn't know that you'd put this question out there, and I thought Snaves was just asking this question. So I'm going to tell this is what I told him. Yes, I'm angry at everybody who books hotels. I am Airbnb for life.
All right. That's a fair policy. Yeah. I'm glad you're not full of rage.
Yeah, and we're waiting for Airbnb to sponsor the show.
All right, so while we wait for that, let's go to maybe a more topical question. Diplodocus, which maybe is a dinosaur, but also a Twitter handle. What are the tactical vulnerabilities that the United States needs to exploit?
I think we mentioned this already. It's England build quickly out of the back. They're very committed to that. If the US presses, I think they can win the ball high. Because, didn't we say? Yeah, we said that England essentially weren't pressed at all until Norway in the second half. And when they did, suddenly Bright was misplacing passes. England were turning the ball over. So that is where the England can be got at, I think.
I would agree with that. I would also say, though, that if you're the United States, if the pressing isn't working right away, the other thing you can do is just frustrate the options. If you, say, man-mark the 2 central midfielders for England and you make it difficult to play wide, suddenly they have to slow down necessarily because they can't just find the kind of automatic options. And as soon as you have a team that's trying to play quickly, fast tempo, putting their foot on the ball and slowing down, you're forcing them to change the way they play.
To slow down their tempo in a way that they definitely don't like. We talked about how they do 1- and 2-touch passing to keep the tempo fast. Yeah, if they suddenly can't do it, Steph Houghton has to put a foot on top of it. If you see Steph Houghton with a foot on top of the ball, the US is doing something right.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think those are the 2 ways. I think you can kind of probe the vulnerabilities with the pressure, but then also kind of keep England from establishing that quick rhythm.
Yeah.
I also think, as I've said a couple times, going at the English defense, not necessarily with individual dribbling. I'm sure the United States will do that, looking in Tobin Heath's direction, but also just quick, incisive passing through the middle and good combination passing. That also seems like a thing that England kind of struggle to deal with in terms of who steps and when and who tracks and who needs to kind of mark space. Yeah, it felt like England had, I keep going back to that one moment with Norway where Steph Houghton came charging out and Lucy Bruns was pulled out of it, and it just felt like in that moment that if the United States can find those quick combinations, they'll be able to find a way through.
And that's the other tactical vulnerability is Lucy Bruns getting forward. Wonderful as she is at doing it, if she leaves her post, then there is space for Rapinoe to try and exploit, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great matchup, Bruns and Rapinoe.
Agreed.
Ready for the next question? Okay, next up. Do most of the English players play in England's domestic women's league? It's the Women's Super League. Any elsewhere? What is the state of the league at the moment?
Sure. You can probably answer this better than I. I think for the most part, most of the squad plays in England.
Yep.
You have a few exceptions. Rachel Daly, the right back we already mentioned, plays in NWSL with Houston, I believe.
Which is one of the arguments for her playing against the United States is that she just is really familiar. For example, she's played against Rapinoe a bunch of times, right?
And then Toni Duggan plays for Barcelona, although I think she has said that she kind of wanted to be able to stay and play in England, but at the time that she was looking to continue her career or expand her career, the league wasn't quite where it needed to be for her to play at that level, so she went to Barcelona. But I think what we'll see is more and more players staying in England and playing in England, and it seems like they're migrating towards a couple clubs, Man City being the biggest one.
Yeah, Man City, I mean, the majority, not the majority of the players, the most represented club when you look at the squad list. I have the squad list in front of me right now. Is Manchester City.
Right.
Nikita Parris just left to join Lyon, which is it's like Valhalla. But even before that, she was playing for Manchester City. Yeah.
Well, who else is in there? Because it's not all like what you'd expect. Like I think there would be an expectation that it's the biggest Premier League clubs all have a big like women's club.
I mean, honestly, it's mostly Man City, Arsenal, Chelsea.
See, but then it falls off because I feel like Birmingham City in there. Like basically,
there's one. So Lucy Stanforth plays for Birmingham City. Jade Moore, the defensive midfielder we talked about, plays for Reading.
Yeah.
But yeah, outside of that, I mean, the only other exception is Greenwood, the left back, who we think won't start because Stokes is more defensive. She plays for Manchester United, who are on the up, but just won promotion from the second division.
Exactly.
They were not a Women's Super League top tier team. So the state of women's football in England, first of all, banned from 1920 to 1970, literally banned by the FA. That is what we were looking at with England. Finally, we're in the period where it's been embraced, one, by the FA, and two, by the big teams who are putting money into the women's teams. Manchester United is a really good example, right? They just didn't care for a while. Now they suddenly care and they've put money into it, and now they're getting promoted. Wolves, I think, are doing something similar. Part of the whole project is to try and get a better women's team. Interest in this World Cup is absolutely gigantic, right? My dad has never watched a women's soccer game before. He is all about the England team at this World Cup. He was talking to me excitedly today about, it's 8 o'clock. I'm going to watch it tomorrow. I'm really excited. Then the other big thing is the Women's Super League has a sponsor for next season, and it's Barclays. Do you remember Barclays was like one of the first sponsors of the Premier League, put a load of money into it, and also did a lot of promotion for it. So I've heard a lot of people who are very connected to the game in England talking about how, one, there's going to be money pumped into the league. Clubs will have more money because there's big title sponsorship by Barclays. But two, Barclays will help keep the profile of the Women's Super League high because they do a lot of marketing activities around things that they sponsor.
Yes.
So the present is really good, better than it's ever been. The future looks even brighter.
Yeah. Lucy brighter? Yes, I would agree with everything you said. I would just add, to my sort of somewhat informed understanding, I feel like you could have a debate about NWSL versus Ligue 1 Féminine in terms of the quality of those two leagues, like which one is better. And then I think of the second tier right now probably being England and maybe Germany in there. That's kind of how I would rank it right now. But I feel like if England continues to invest, it's one where we'll start to see more and more players heading that direction.
And I am fascinated about how the NWSL teams compare to, say, the English teams. I honestly wish there was some sort of
International Champions Cup?
Well, no, but not friendlies, not overpriced friendlies where they charge you too much for a ticket. Almost like the Champions League, but maybe they should just invite NWSL teams into it. Just make it like a women's Champions League soccer, and it's not just UEFA, it's all over the world, the very best teams. Like maybe Santos come and a bunch of US teams come. That could be really, really thrilling.
Didn't Santos dissolve their women's team so they could pay Neymar?
Yes. I mean, that was one of the tragedies of Brazilian soccer, but then they undissolved it.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. All right. Well, until that happens, we'll just answer some more questions. Okay. The next one coming from Sean Hardgrove, who I feel like stole half your name. Will Daryl be dressing as Phil Neville to watch the game?
What is Phil Neville dresses like a poor man's Gareth Southgate, right?
So will you be dressing like a poor man's Gareth Southgate?
I don't. The only waistcoat I have
is from my wedding.
Is from your wedding, and that is more of like a tan.
It is
color,
a tan,
right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd have to dye that blue.
Do you have your pocket watch? That's the question.
Of course I do. Yeah,
there we are.
I would not lose that.
There we are.
So I'll bring my pocket watch and a monocle.
Do you own a monocle, or are you going to break a lens out of a glass?
I'm going to smash some glasses in half.
Perfect. I think that's what you should do.
Sounds really safe, right? I should definitely
100%.
Do that.
Yeah. What could go wrong?
The answer is no, but actually I have a US jersey I always wear for... I have a 3 Stars t-shirt that I wear for US women's games, and I have an England t-shirt with the 3 lions on
with
it.
The weird poor lion on the bottom.
Yeah, with the runt of the litter.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do tomorrow. I don't know. Maybe I'll just wear something neutral. What's a neutral colour between England and the United States?
Purple? I feel like red and blue. Everybody's got red, white, and blue, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like mix all those together. I feel like you get purple.
Okay, there we go. That's what I'm going to do.
Or wear green and just throw it all off.
You ready for the next question?
Sure.
Gringa con gatos?
Mm-hmm.
That means she's got cats, right?
Yes.
Can you comment on who the French fans will be supporting? Will they be supporting the Brits, as Neville claims?
I believe that's White Lady with Cats. Yes. Yes. So this is a strange one.
She has flour tortillas.
Yes, she does. This is a strange one because this feels like one of those things that gets said and gets picked up and then becomes repeated as truth.
Yeah.
Phil Neville said in a press conference, "We're the French second team now. Now that their team are out, they're supporting us, so we'll have the crowd on our side. The French people have got behind the story of our football. We are the team the French public want to win. The French support has been incredible." So I messaged Caitlin Murray to ask about this because I was like, is that true? And she responded, I actually just went on an Irish podcast where I was asked this question. And
is she on the two captains?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But she basically said, like, I'm not sure where this came from. She said, I imagine that you'd rather lose to the eventual champion. The U.S. might be the villains to neutrals, but maybe I'm delusional, but I think the French respect that the United States outfought them in the quarterfinal. Shrug emoji. So I think this is a thing where maybe Phil Neville has just decided that they're the French team. Maybe he's trying to kind of play up that narrative that the United States are the evil empire, the villains, and that we're these kind of upstarts who...
We're the rebels.
Yes.
We're the rebel alliance.
We're the upstarts English empire. You know how they are. Yes,
this is reverse 1776, isn't it?
Yes, it is. But I also think that like what we have seen from this competition, from everything I've seen from the people who've been covering it, is that all the crowds have been very pro-America, except for the USA-France game, and even then there was a very large pro-USA contingent.
Yeah.
So I would expect that to continue. So even if the French crowds are behind England more than they are the United States, and I don't even know if that's the case, I still think it would be a largely pro-US crowd at the stadium.
It's almost like Phil Neville has no concept of history and the rivalry between England and France.
Maybe.
And the weird relationship between France...
Did you guys fight some wars?
We sure did.
For like hundreds of years?
Yes.
Like maybe one called 100 Years' War? Okay.
So there's also the weird relationship between France and the United States. Right? There is a history of France supporting the US, like, rebelling against the British, mostly as part of France's rivalry with Britain.
Oh, our naval blockade is important? Yes. I didn't know that, right? Yeah.
It's like... TJ spending all that time in France, right?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, thanks for Louisiana. Next question. Gregory Michael. I remember Kirby.
Frank Kirby.
There we go. Being essential to the England team in 2015. Has her style of play or her role in the team changed under Phil Neville?
So the answer is I don't know enough about what England did in 2015 to really comment on that. I do know what Frank Kirby is doing in 2019.
Let's talk about that.
So she's operating as essentially a number 10. She's in the number 10 role. She is the player that in the middle of the field, if there's any sort of scramble because England attack kind of fast, right? She's the one that can calm it down without slowing the tempo. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I see her control the ball in tight spaces, make sure that she maintains possession, but also maneuver herself into a situation where she can flick a clever little through ball, or, spread it out wide again so that an attack down the wings can start again. So she's like the weird sort of, like the ball sticks to her she's like a magnet if things get wild in the attacking midfield zone. She's also someone who, if the US presses England and, say, Kirby receives the ball relatively deep, like in her own half, she's someone who I really think can accelerate. I'm not saying she's like super quick, but she has the skills and enough acceleration to suddenly break the lines through dribbling, right?
Yep.
She's someone who I can see Juliet's come sliding in on and Kirby like left foot step over and then cut to the right, and she's like rounded Juliet slide tackle and she's away. Like, that's the threat of Frank Kirby.
My very quick way of explaining this is that Frank Kirby in this competition for me has been not Lucy Bruns, as in I'll see a player go on like a very smart dribbling run or play a very incisive pass through the lines or over the top, and I'll say like, oh, is that Lucy Bruns? No, it was Frank Kirby. Like, if that keeps happening, that's
England's second best player maybe is Frank Kirby.
Yeah, probably. I do love me some Jill Scott, and I've enjoyed Ellen White, and I've enjoyed Nikita Paris. But yes, I've enjoyed most of England, I guess I should just say.
Ready for the next question?
Sure.
Okay. Matthew Doherty. Am I in the right place here? Yeah.
You got it.
Is Morgan up top that much better than Kristen Press? Matthew thinks Press has more of a finishing touch.
I have my concerns about Alex Morgan. I have since the beginning of the competition and even before that. I think what I keep going back to is, to mention it for the third time, a point made by Caitlin Murray, which is that Alex Morgan, what she brings to this team isn't just goal scoring. Yes, she scored goals specifically against Thailand, but it's about the runs she makes, the hold-up play, the threat she offers that pulls in other defenders, just the awareness that it's Alex Morgan, we better triple team her, which leaves space for other players. So I think to crib from Caitlin Murray, basically, if the United States is scoring goals, even if Alex Morgan is not, she will continue to start because she knows the rhythms, she knows the patterns of play, she knows how to play off of her teammates better than anybody else.
Yeah, so what you're essentially saying is Morgan can do a lot of back-to-goal stuff. Morgan can also win flick-ons and things like that.
Yep.
I don't see that in Kristen Press's game. Kristen Press, to me, is more someone who wants to face the goal, face a defender, go at them, right? And that is why Kristen Press actually isn't even the rival for Alex Morgan's starting position. Kristen Press is probably the sub for Morgan. Sorry. The sub for either Rapinoe or Heath. You keep seeing her come in on the wings and be really dangerous, right? But the competition for Morgan's starting spot is first probably Kylie Lloyd and then second Jess McDonald, right? But it's going to be Morgan to start.
Yes, it will.
Because of everything she offers outside of goal scoring.
Here's my follow-up question for you, though, is that we've seen Alex Morgan since the Spain game taking some knocks. She got a bunch of hits against Spain, kicked, shoved, knocked over. We saw a lot of that again against France. We saw Alex Morgan on the ground plenty of times against France.
Yeah.
Do you think that is something that England will try to do as well? Will they track her out? Will they knock her in the air? Will they maybe leave a stud in when they don't necessarily need to? Is that part of their game plan?
I mean, if England watched the Spain game, they might think, hey, that might work.
Yeah.
Right? So, I could see. I don't know how violent Steph Houghton is.
Yeah.
I don't know how violent Bright is, but I can see them making some tough challenges on Alex Morgan. Because honestly, otherwise, the reason teams do that is if you don't do that, she's probably going to dominate you in the air. She's probably going to have loads of flick-ons and loads of connections where she receives the ball and lays it out wide to Morgan and Rapinoe. You almost have to beat her up or she's going to beat you up.
I think that is genuinely the answer, that you'd rather knock her out of the air, and if it's a free kick, it's a free kick, then let her bring the ball down, turn, and go at you, because you can't really do that once she's already beaten you in on goal.
Absolutely. And then there's a chance for Alex Morgan, if England do go up the field really aggressively and leave space in behind. The thing she hasn't been allowed to do in this tournament, because teams have been a bit deeper, is use that bit of pace to run in. She loves to hang on the line and get in behind, right? She could do that if England leave her space. So we could see the other side of Alex Morgan in this game.
We could.
Yeah.
I go back to my point about the midfield, though, is that if we see Alex Morgan getting knocked around, looking like maybe she can't go in the 30th minute, which has happened in this tournament, and I feel like this happened multiple times in this tournament.
She's taken a knee, basically.
Yeah, we thought she was going to need to be subbed. I hope that there are plans for what to do if Alex Morgan can't go, or it looks like she's having an off night because she is getting banged up.
I think the plan is bring Kylie Lloyd in.
That would make sense.
It usually seems to be.
Final question, which I'm going to ask to you because I feel like you are slightly more qualified than I to answer.
I mean, watch out for my answer.
Anthony Calabrese, why does the Daily Mail hate America so much?
So, a lot of these hotel stories have been published by the Daily Mail. Other stories about the US being arrogant are published by the Daily Mail.
Was it the Daily Mail who did the easy one for the 2010 World Cup?
That was the Sun.
Okay, of course
who
it was.
Equally as bad.
Yeah.
But essentially, if you don't know about the Daily Mail, it is an absolute right-wing rag in England. It is the most pro-Brexit, anti-immigrant thing. They are against everything that isn't white English people.
Okay.
So when England, for example, are in a tournament and they have an opponent, you can guarantee the Daily Mail will want to smear the opponent and say terrible things about them because that appeals to their audience who consider themselves patriotic.
That must be really difficult. Yeah, that must be really difficult to have that because we have nothing like that in the United States.
It's like Fox News, but they print it on newspaper.
Yeah, I'm kidding, dude. Yeah. We have so many of those.
It's Fox News, but you can use it for fish and chips.
You could, but then the fish and chips are really angry and don't like chips that have been caught in Europe or fish that have been caught in Europe.
And then, as well as just having that sort of xenophobic, terrible editorial stance, really pulling no punches here. They want you to click on articles, right? Yep. There's a whole separate arm of the Daily Mail, which is just their online stuff. And they publish a load of stuff online. And they're very good at getting people to click on headlines, essentially through making you angry.
Yeah.
Right? So the same editorial stance goes through to the internet stuff.
And it's like the old line about Howard Stern when he was first coming up, that it was like, people who love Howard Stern listen to him for 2 hours a day. People who hate Howard Stern listen to him for 3 hours a day because they hate him so much they want to know what he's going to do next. Same thing for people who like him. And that's the kind of thing here is if you have a really inflammatory headline that appeals to your far right-wing terrible base, then you're going to do that. But if you're offended by it, if you're angry about it, then you're still going to click it to be like, well, what are they saying now?
Yep, and then they make money on the ads. Right? So I would say to everybody, don't click on any Daily Mail stuff.
Don't.
You'll only encourage them.
This is true.
All right, no more questions.
No more questions.
We answered all the questions. I think you said this show should be about 30 minutes. Where are we at?
Slightly longer than that.
Slightly longer than that.
We're at our usual almost an hour.
Buy one Total Soccer Show, get another one free. That's the deal that we offer. Anything else to add on this game, Taylor?
No, I'm just very excited for the game on the whole. I'm going to avoid antagonizing you deliberately tomorrow with American things.
That means you might do it accidentally.
I might, yeah. And also maybe we'll deliberately.
So again, it's Tuesday, 3 o'clock Eastern, kickoff. We will, of course, be here in studio to watch with a review soon after. We hope you'll join us for both.
We certainly do.
All right. Well, there's only so much room in the office, though.
This is true.
Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening, and go USA and go England.